Born into a life of struggles, he lives as a nobody. But destiny isn't done with. Out of nowhere, he gets a second chance and wakes up in the body of a noble, heir to a land teetering on the edge of collapse. Corruption rots its core, starvation grips its people, and enemies circle like vultures. Yet, he's no ordinary lord. With the memories and wisdom of his past life, he's ready to spark a revolution, building an unstoppable army, igniting an industrial age, forging a kingdom that will rise against all odds. This is the tale of a forgotten man rewriting his destiny, one battle at a time. The story begins in the chaos of a hospital. A doctor calls out urgently, "We need a ventilator now." The medical team scrambles, their voices blending into a frantic blur. In the middle of it all is Jin, gasping for air, his chest heaving, his heart pounding uncontrollably. He feels like he's on the brink of collapse. For 20 years, Jin has poured his soul into his work as an industrial mechanical designer. But what did it bring? Endless disappointment, a life of loneliness, and now his body breaking under the pressure of his own ambition. From the start, Jin's life was a story of struggle. A car accident claimed his parents when he was just a child, leaving him to grow up as an orphan. After college, he landed a low-paying job that barely kept him afloat for 2 decades. Jin had spent his entire life alone, never even holding someone's hand. Now, as he lies on the hospital bed, his closest friend's voice breaks through the chaos. "Jin, can you hear me? Stay with us." But Jin, drowning in exhaustion, wonders, is this life even worth fighting? As darkness starts to overtake him, he thinks, maybe I'll just take a little nap. When Jin opens his eyes, the world around him is nothing like the hospital room. He's in a massive, luxurious chamber with silk curtains draping elegantly and sparkling crystal lights hanging overhead. For a moment, he panics, thinking he somehow blew all his savings on an extravagant hospital suite. Then a strange notification flashes before his eyes. "Welcome to the magical continent of Eldera." Jin freezes, his mind racing. Could this be one of those isekai scenarios like in the stories he's read? As reality sinks in, he realizes this isn't Earth. In this new world, Jin finds himself in the body of someone called Rain Edgar, the third son of a powerful duke. At first, it feels like a dream. Servants wait on him hand and foot, fulfilling his every need. A week passes, and the pieces start falling into place. He had died in his old world, and somehow he's been reincarnated into this one. Rain Edgar, the person whose body he now inhabits, isn't just anyone. He's part of one of the most influential noble families. Rain's new life is nothing short of a fairy. His older siblings shower him with care. "Little brother, eat this. You need to grow strong," his sister says, placing a lavish meal in front of him. "This is magic water," his brother explains, handing him a sparkling vial. "It boosts magical power. I got it at a high price." Even his mother contributes, presenting him with a finely sewn shirt. "Try it on, my dear," she says warmly. As the youngest and most pampered member of the family, Ryan lives a life of unimaginable luxury, but beneath the surface, he feels like a stranger in this world. Why was he given this second chance? Why him, of all? To calm his doubts, he reasons that maybe this is life's way of compensating him for all the pain and struggles of his past. However, deep down, he knows this isn't just a gift. It's an opportunity, a chance to change everything. The world of Eldera is a marvel, where magic drives every part of life, from farming to transport. In this magical land, the Coral Empire stands as the largest human nation, a melting pot of different races, including dwarves. Among its many influential families, the Edgar family holds a vast territory of 300,000 square kilometers. Their land is rich with fertile fields, a grand castle, and a population of over 1 million. As a noble, Ryan seems to have it all. Fine clothing, luxurious living, and even a personal maid. Yet, every time he looks in the mirror, he sees not the nobleman he has become, but the face of Jan, his past self. This haunting reflection reminds him of the life he left behind. Rain's thoughts are interrupted by Leah, his cheerful and radiant maid. She approaches him with a warm smile and announces, "Your father wishes to see." Following her lead, Ryan finds himself at the door of his father's study. Inside, his father, Aline Edgar, is engrossed in reviewing reports from across their land. Rain greets his father with the practiced grace of a noble, bowing slightly as he waits for his words. Aline looks up, his expression serious, and asks, "Do you know why I called?" Rain feels a wave of unease but replies softly, "No, father, I don't." The Duke leans back in his chair, his stern face softening slightly. "Rain, you're of age now. It's time for you to manage your own territory. Have you thought about where you would like it to be?" The question catches Ryan off guard. He stares in surprise, unsure of how to respond. "Inherit a territory?" he asks hesitantly. Aline sighs at his son's naivety and explains, "It is customary for nobles your age to begin governing their own land." Rising from his chair, the Duke moves toward a large map mounted on the wall. Pointing to the northwest corner of their domain, he says, "The land you will oversee is here. It's relatively safe, but the lack of mages has made food supply a constant issue." His tone grows heavier as he continues. "While our territory is stable for now, The Coral Empire's future is uncertain. The royal family is weakening, and the political system is falling apart. Rivalries among lords have fractured the empire, creating a dangerous web of schemes and power structure. Rhine nods silently, agreeing with his father's grim assessment. Since his rebirth, he has experienced care and love that he never knew in his past life. His family's genuine affection strengthens his resolve to protect them. Aline notices his son deep in thought and wonders if he is placing too much responsibility. To ease the tension, he reassures Reen, "You are not alone in this. Your older brother, your sister, and I are here to support." But Rain isn't overwhelmed. Instead, an idea begins to form in his mind. He looks at his father with newfound determination and asks, "If I solve the food supply problem, will it make the territory safer?" Aline smiles faintly at his son's enthusiasm but explains patiently, "It's not that simple. Solving the food crisis requires more than passion. It demands careful planning and gradual execution." Rain, however, isn't deterred. He isn't relying on mere optimism but on the vast knowledge he carries from his past life, a lifetime of humanity's progress through industrial revolution. With unwavering confidence, he boldly declares, "I'll take responsibility for fixing the..." Rhine's journey to his new domain begins. Island City, the remote territory assigned to him, is a land with great potential, but filled with challenges. To the north, it borders the lands of Grand Duke Ryan, a sworn enemy. To the west are the mysterious Elven territories, and to the south lies the vast, uncharted ocean. Its strategic location has made it a frequent battleground, leaving its once fertile lands barren, its population sparse, and its resources nearly exhausted. As the carriage rolls toward Island City, Rhine immerses himself in documents detailing the state of his new domain. Leah, his loyal companion, watches him closely, worry written all over her face. Rhine knows that revitalizing the territory depends on increasing its population. A strong workforce, he believes, is the foundation of any industrial revolution. Despite the daunting task ahead, Rhine is confident his efforts will bear fruit. Rhine isn't starting from scratch. One of his greatest assets is a special ability granted by the system, Human Resource Scan. This skill allows him to assess and identify talented individuals with ease. He has already tested it on his family, giving him a solid understanding of the world's talent standards. His first goal upon reaching Island City is clear: find extraordinary people who can help restore the territory. Meanwhile, Leah reflects on the Duke's instructions to her. She is tasked with supporting Rain and ensuring he doesn't cause chaos in the region. Silently, she prays that he won't turn Island City into a disaster. Back in the city, the Lord's residence buzzes with tension. A nervous man informs the others that the Duke's youngest son will arrive soon. He suggests taking preemptive action. However, a masked man seated across from him dismisses the idea with a calm yet cold response. "Wait for my orders," he says, his tone masking a deep, simmering anger. The masked man speaks ominously about making Aline pay for past grievances. Nearby, a blonde-haired man fidgets nervously. He is preoccupied with his falsified financial records and the taxes he has embezzled. The masked man laughs at his panic, mocking Ryan as an ignorant playboy who won't notice such detail. "Just give him some irrelevant documents when he arrives," the masked man instructs. Reluctantly, the blonde-haired man nods and begins preparing for Rain's reception. As Rain's carriage approaches the outskirts of Island City, he gazes out at the barren fields and abandoned farmland. His expression grows serious as he takes in the state of his domain. Turning to Leah, he requests a map and examines the surrounding area carefully. His eyes linger on two key locations, the river to the west and the harbour to the south. Determined to breathe life back into Island City, Ryan's mind races with plans for the challenges ahead. A sudden idea flashes in Ryan's mind. Dredging the river and building a canal to connect it to the sea could transform the land and bring prosperity. As he delves deeper into the thought, his focus is interrupted by a desperate cry nearby. He turns to see a young girl kneeling in the dirt, clinging to the leg of a man who appears to be her father. The girl pleads tearfully, begging him not to gamble away their last bit of money, which is meant for her mother's medical treatment. Her voice trembles as she explains that losing the money would doom her ailing mother. The man, consumed by greed, yells at the girl to let go. His confidence in his luck blinds him to her desperation. When she refuses to release him, he raises his hand in anger, ready to strike her. Before the blow lands, Ryan steps in. With a swift punch, he sends the man sprawling to the ground. Anger burns in Rain's eyes, though he winces immediately. This is the first time he's ever thrown a punch. Leah rushes to Ryan's side, concern etched across her face. She scolds him gently, teasing that next time he decides to hit someone, he should at least warn her so she can bring protective gear. Reen chuckles at her remark, brushing off her concern. He explains that the punch was a spur-of-the-moment decision, leaving no time for preparation. As he speaks, He strides purposefully toward the man on the ground and instructs Leah to check on the girl while he handles the gambler. The man, still clutching his face, stares up at Reen in shock. Reen's sharp, contemptuous gaze pierces him. In a cold, steady voice, Reen berates the man for gambling away money meant for his family and for even attempting to hit his own daughter. The gambler, scowling, tries to defend himself, demanding to know who Reen thinks he is to interfere in his life. Reen steps closer, his presence commanding and intimidating. With an icy tone, he warns the man that it doesn't matter who he is. If Reen ever catches him near a gambling den again, the consequences will be severe. Reen's threatening demeanor and firm words drain the color from the man's face. Pale and trembling, the gambler stammers out a promise to stay away from gambling dens before fleeing the scene. Feeling satisfied with how he handled the situation, Reen turns his attention back to the girl who stands frozen in shock. Concerned, he kneels slightly and asks if she is all right. As he speaks, he activates his system to check her condition, his focus now entirely on ensuring her safety. The young girl introduces herself as Lillian, bowing her head and thanking Reen with tears in her eyes. She explains that losing the money would have cost her mother's life. As Reen listens, he discreetly checks his system screen, his curiosity piqued. Most of Lillian's stats seem average, but one attribute shines brightly, her exceptional potential in agriculture and harvesting. Reen's mind races. This could be the key to revitalizing his land. With a warm smile, he tells Lillian she has a rare gift and offers her a place in his plans to restore the territory. Sensing her hesitation, he guesses she's heading to the city to find a doctor for her mother. He invites her to join his group, reassuring her that it's no trouble. When she glances at his carriage, worried about dirtying it, Reen laughs gently. "It's just a bunch of wooden wheels," he says, his tone calm but firm. "Clean or dirty doesn't matter when it comes to transportation." As Lillian nods shyly, Reen's expression shifts to one of seriousness. He points to the gambling den nearby and asks why such a place exists in an area so stricken by poverty. Lillian explains the harsh realities of the region, the devastating attack by Grand Duke Ryan's soldiers last fall, the spring floods that wiped out crops, and the sheer desperation that followed. Island City is barely surviving, its streets filled with beggars and despair. Reen takes in her words, his gaze hardening. He decides to conduct a population census to assess the remaining workforce. But first, he needs to visit the city lord's manor to review the region's funds and plan for infrastructure improvements. "Lillian," he asks, "can you guide me to the manor?" Before she can answer, a loud shout cuts through the air. A blonde-haired man on horseback charges recklessly down the street, yelling for people to get out of his way. His careless galloping causes chaos, forcing pedestrians to dive for safety. Leah reacts instantly, yanking Reen aside just as the horse barrels past them. The rider doesn't even glance back, his indifference adding to the tension. Leah's eyes burn with fury as she glares after him. To her, anyone who dares put Reen in danger deserves the harshest punishment, but her protective instincts kick in a little too strongly. Her grip on Reen tightens, leaving him gasping for air. "Leah!" "Breathe," he manages to choke out. Realizing her mistake, Leah immediately lets go, apologizing profusely. "Are you hurt?" she asks, scanning him for injuries. Reen chuckles softly, shaking his head. "No harm done, Leah. Thank you for your quick reflexes. Let's focus on the task ahead," he says, his tone growing serious again as he glances at the chaotic streets around them. Reen asks Lillian if she knows the rider, and trembling, she explains that he is the young master of the Elven family, a name synonymous with wealth in Island City, thanks to their control over all the gambling dens. Hearing this, Reen's expression changes. An idea sparks in his mind. A wealthy family could mean a potential source of funds for his grand plans. He immediately asks Lillian to take him to one of the gambling dens, but she hesitates, pleading with him not to go. She's afraid he might lose all his money. However, Reen, brimming with confidence, reassures her with a calm smile. "Don't worry," he says, his tone steady. "This gambling den won't be taking anything from me." Watching his unshakable resolve, Lillian can't help but wonder, who is this noble young man who speaks with such authority? Soon, they arrive at the gambling den, a lavish building that starkly contrasts the surrounding poverty. Its grandeur screams wealth, flaunting the vast gap between the rich and the struggling. Guards stand firm at the entrance, but Rain strides forward without hesitation, a quiet determination in his eyes. A sly smile plays on his lips as he silently vows to turn this place into the foundation of his industrial dreams. Inside, the den is a chaotic swirl of noise and desperation. Gamblers beg for more loans, convinced they can recover their losses in the next round. Others cheer their fleeting wins or mourn crushing defeats. Rain watches the scene with sharp focus, realizing that as long as this place exists, the people of Island City will remain trapped in their misery, without the drive to rebuild their lives. Leah stays close by, her voice low and cautious as she whispers to Rain, "Our soldiers have surrounded the gambling den. Should we proceed?" Rain shakes his head, calm as ever. "Not yet," he replies, his gaze scanning the room. "We're waiting for a bigger catch." As he observes, a staff member approaches, wearing a polite smile. "Young master, welcome," the man says, his voice smooth. "What game would you like to try today?" Rain returns the smile, feigning innocence. "I'm not familiar with gambling," he admits, his tone casual, "but I'd like to try something simple. What do you recommend?" Sensing an easy target, the attendant's grin widens. "How about a dice game?" he suggests, handing Rain 2 complimentary chips. "These are on the house. Your chance to get lucky." Rain accepts the chips with a look of delight, playing along perfectly. He steps toward the table, tossing the chips casually onto a small betting slot. The dice roll. All eyes fix on the tumbling cubes as they come to a stop. The smug glances they exchange don't go unnoticed, but Ryan keeps his act intact, already thinking several moves ahead. The attendant faints in shock, trying to console Ryan by claiming he was close to winning. Reen plays along perfectly, feigning surprise at how quickly the game ended. He comments that it wasn't very entertaining and says he's suddenly hungry. Just as he turns to leave, the attendant steps in front of him, blocking his way. His polite demeanor vanishes, replaced by a mocking tone as he demands payment for the chips Reen used. Reen frowns, acting confused. "When did I agree to owe anything?" he asks, his voice steady. The attendant steps closer, explaining that the chips were not gifts, but loans. He adds that each chip is worth 100 gold coins, and with interest and processing fees, Rain now owes 250 gold coins. With a smirk, the attendant suggests that if Rain can't pay, he can leave his maid as collateral. Lillian, outraged by the scam, immediately speaks up. She accuses the attendant of lying and explains to Rain that the chips were only worth a silver coin each. The attendant, furious at Lillian for exposing his trick, yells for the guards to beat her. But before he can finish his command, Reen reacts. With a swift punch, he sends the man flying backward, crashing into a nearby table. Calmly adjusting his clothes, Reen remarks, "Someone like you has no authority here." The casino erupts into chaos as gamblers scramble to grab the chips that have scattered across the floor. Reen sighs, watching the madness, muttering that none of these people are worth his time. Suddenly, a commanding voice echoes through the room, demanding to know who's causing trouble. It's the same man Ryan encountered earlier on horseback. The man's arrival immediately silences the chaos. With a glare, he orders his guards to teach the troublemakers a lesson. Without hesitation, the guards begin mercilessly beating the people nearby, ignoring their cries for mercy. The remaining crowd stands frozen in fear, too terrified to intervene. The young master of the Elven family sneers at the onlookers, threatening them to behave or face the same fate. Lillian, clutching Leah's arm, whispers that it's all her fault. She blames herself for leading them to the den and feels ashamed for putting Ryan and Leah in such a dangerous position. She remembers how Ryan personally took her mother to the hospital, making sure she received treatment and promising to cover the costs. That memory fills her with determination. Lillian steps forward, declaring she won't allow them to scam her brother. Her boldness catches everyone's attention, though most are too scared to react. Murmurs spread through the crowd, questioning who she is and how she dares challenge someone like the young master of the Elven family. Weo, the young master, glares at her, seething with rage at her defiance. Lillian stands her ground, accusing him of using the casino to exploit and destroy families. She refuses to let him bully Ryan and Leah, calling them good people who don't deserve such treatment. Weo, furious, lunges at her. Despite her fear, Lillian refuses to back down, positioning herself between him and Rain to shield him with her small frame. But before Weo can harm her, Rain intercepts, grabbing his arm with swift precision. He activates his system skill to assess Weo's stats. The results reveal low attributes, only 5 loyalty points, and a personality marked by cruelty and bloodlust. Ryan recognizes the Elwyn family as a potential threat, one that could betray him at any moment. Weo glares at Ryan, accusing him of disrespecting the casino's rules. Reen calmly releases his grip, responding that he understands the rules perfectly, because in this world power dictates everything, and the strong make the rules. Weo sneers arrogantly, fully convinced that he's the strongest in the city. He questions why Rain still dares oppose him, asking if Rain even knows who he is. Rain's expression remains steady as he confidently responds, asserting that he doesn't need to know who Weo is. The only thing that matters is his own strength. His fist is bigger, and his word is the law. With that, Rain claps his hands, signaling his soldiers to storm into the casino, ready to take control. The scene then shifts to a grand banquet held in Rain's honor, gathering the city's most prominent and influential figures. Each one has their own hidden agendas. Among the attendees is Lucas, the head of a prestigious family, who plans to collaborate with the city lord to teach Rain a lesson. Lucas had intended to use Weo to establish a connection with Rain that he could later manipulate, but now he's puzzled by Weo's absence. Frustrated, he realizes he can't rely solely on the city lord's incompetence and needs to adapt his plans as the banquet hall buzzes with murmurs. A loud voice suddenly announces Rain's arrival, and the atmosphere shifts instantly, growing tense and silent. As Rain enters, his presence commands attention, and the guests quickly adjust their demeanors. The head of the Raven family hurries forward to introduce himself and present a gift to Rain. Another guest, the head of the Jose family, eagerly introduces his daughter, hoping to win favor. However, Rain's sharp expression silences the room as he instructs everyone to quiet down. With everyone now present, Rain declares that it's time to officially begin. He gestures for his attendants to bring in a large blueprint, a peculiar object that immediately catches everyone's attention. Pointing to the blueprint, Rain explains that it's a design for a dam he sketched earlier that afternoon. He mentions that skilled craftsmen will be enlisted during its construction to confirm the finer details. The room fills with whispers as attendees exchange confused glances. Someone asks aloud if a dam is a tool for fishing. Rain quickly calls for silence and instructs Leah to display a map of the region. With the room now quiet, he begins his presentation. Rain explains that during his survey of Island City earlier that day, he identified the root cause of the city's annual flooding, a poorly managed canal in the far north. By building a dam at this location, they can control the water flow, using it to irrigate fields during the dry season and releasing excess water during the rainy season to prevent floods. Lucas listens intently, unable to hide his admiration for the ingenuity of the plan. He realizes that if the dam is successfully built, it will significantly boost the city's food production. For the first time, he acknowledges that Rain possesses a sharp and innovative mind. An older man in the audience asks how the project concerns them, prompting Rain to explain calmly that he needs their investments to fund the dam's construction. This statement shocks the crowd, sparking a wave of grumbling. Many protest, claiming they're too poor to contribute. Lucas remains silent, privately thinking that while Ryan is intelligent, he's also naive to expect these opportunists to willingly invest. But Ryan isn't as naive as they assume. Smiling, he reassures them there's no need to fear poverty. He has a plan to make everyone a fortune. Rain reveals that earlier that afternoon he seized a casino and confiscated nearly 50,000 gold coins. He hints that there are several more casinos in Island City ripe for the taking. The revelation leaves the attendees stunned, their minds racing as they process the implications. Some murmur anxiously, wondering if their shares in the casino profits are now lost. Others hope that the seized casino wasn't one of their investments. It becomes clear that the largest casino in Island City belongs to Lord Andrin, making it likely that Rain has just provoked a powerful enemy. Lucas, his calm facade hiding his inner fury, steps forward to confront Rain. He accuses Ryan of acting unlawfully by dismantling a legitimate business without authorization. Lucas emphasizes that the laws of the Coral Empire cannot be violated and warns Reen of the consequences. Others quickly chime in, echoing Lucas's words. They accuse Reen of overstepping his authority and point out that casinos are legitimate businesses. The crowd grows bolder, rallying behind Lucas's objections, but Reen remains unfazed by their protests, keeping his calm. He addresses the room, noting that when he asked for investments, they claimed to be poor, but now, when he offers an opportunity for profit, they suddenly show concern. He points out that most of them were complicit in the casino operations and warns them that this is their last chance to save their reputations, or he'll intervene personally. At this, Rein's soldiers step forward, their presence a stark reminder of Rein's authority. Lucas, speaking for the group, insists that the Grand Duke would never condone Rein's reckless actions. Others plead with Reen to reconsider his approach, urging him to act with restraint. Reen smiles, his plan unfolding perfectly. With an air of authority, he announces that he would gladly discuss the law with them. His voice is calm but commanding as he orders that those who can clarify the situation be brought in. The crowd falls silent, their unease palpable as they await what Reen has planned next. At Rein's command, 2 men captured at the casino are brought into the room. Lucas, seated among the nobles, is immediately struck by their presence. These 2 men have always been by Woe's side, and their unexpected appearance makes Lucas uneasy. He begins to suspect that something has happened to his son. The men are brought in bound and gagged, unable to speak. Rein, staying calm, turned to Lucas and asked if he recognized the 2 men. Lucas, keeping a neutral face, said he didn't know them and asked what Rein meant by the question. Rein gave a small smile, trying to ease the tension, and explained that it wasn't a big deal. The 2 men had tried to harm him the day before. He added that they had claimed to have influence over the city of Island and seemed to have strong backing. Lucas's face grew more serious, but he quickly regained his composure, hiding his discomfort. Rein then ordered his soldiers to untie the 2 men, suggesting the guests could have a chance to see if anyone recognized them. The nobles exchanged uneasy glances, and many quickly identified the men as attendants of We. A sense of unease spread across the room as the full meaning of Rein's words sank in. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Lucas reacted immediately. He grabbed a dagger from the table and, filled with anger, confronted the 2 men. He accused them of acting unlawfully against a noble and took swift action to end the conflict. Blood spilled onto the floor as the room fell silent, with the other nobles too shocked to speak. Standing over the bodies, Lucas turned to Rein with a look of feigned regret. He apologized, explaining his actions were driven by anger after learning about the attack, and asked for Rein's forgiveness. Rein, having expected this, smiled knowingly. He praised Lucas for his quick action, acknowledging him as someone who acted decisively when needed. Lucas, masking his relief, thanked Rein for the praise, saying he had only done what was necessary. But Rein wasn't finished. Calmly, he ordered his soldiers to bring in the person behind the plot, curious to see if any of the nobles shared Lucas's sense of justice. Lucas stiffened at the command. Soon his son, Weo, was brought into the room. Unaware of the situation, Weo demanded the soldiers release him, bragging about his father's power and threatening everyone in the room once he was free. Lucas's expression changed when he saw his son. His earlier composure vanished as he realized why Weo had been missing from the banquet. Seeing the 2 attendants dead on the floor, Weo was filled with rage and began throwing insults at everyone present. Rein, threatening Weo with torture once he was released, remained unfazed by the outburst. He chuckled sarcastically and pointed out that Weo not only wanted to kill him, but also seemed eager to cause as much suffering as possible. Weo continued his rant, boasting that no one in Ison dared oppose him, and that Rein's death was certain. Rein then turned to Lucas and asked if he agreed with his son's claims. Still unaware of Rein's identity, Weo mocked him further, laughing at the situation. Just as Weo was about to reveal Lucas's identity, his father sharply cut him off. Lucas, now desperate, scolded Weo for being a disobedient son and ordered him to kneel before Rein. When Weo hesitated, Lucas forced him down, kneeling beside his son. Lucas then pleaded for Rein's mercy, offering all his possessions in exchange for sparing Weo's life. It was at that moment that Weo realized his mistake. He remembered his father's instructions to befriend the Duke's son, and fear began to creep into his eyes as he understood Rhine's true identity. Stammering, Weo apologized and swore never to act so foolishly again. Rhine's expression remained cold as he told Weo that his soldiers and authority were proof enough of his status. Lucas added, swearing that the Elwyn family would serve Rhine loyally, even offering to surrender all their illegally gained assets. Unmoved, Rhine informed Lucas that he would accept the offer to turn over the assets, assuring him that his family would remain safe if he complied. Relieved, Lucas expressed his gratitude. However, as he glanced at the city lord, he realized his influence had now been diminished, and he had little choice. In a hushed voice, Lucas whispered to Rhine about a plot against the Duke, revealing that Lord Eldry had been colluding with outside enemies to betray the city. The revelation shocked everyone, and all eyes turned to Eldry, who stood frozen with fear. Lucas was about to elaborate when Rhine sharply interrupted him, accusing Lucas of slandering Eldry and declaring that he had been lenient enough. Rhine ordered his guards to drag Lucas and Weo out of the room for execution. Lucas, stunned and terrified, couldn't understand Rhine's sudden change in behavior. Meanwhile, Eldry, relieved by Rhine's response, stepped forward to pledge his loyalty. He praised Rhine for his wisdom and promised unwavering support. Rhine, smiling, assured Eldry that he trusted him completely. However, Rhine secretly used his system to analyze Eldry's attributes. Among ordinary stats, he found the trait greed and noted a loyalty level of only 15. Rhine decided that Eldry, like Lucas, was destined to be eliminated. For now, however, he would use Eldry's resources to further his plans after the banquet. Afterward, Rhine worked late into the night. The nobles had contributed over 100,000 gold coins, an amount equivalent to 2 years of taxes collected from the city of Ison. Yet the sum didn't satisfy him. As Rhine focused on his work, Leah entered the room carrying a cup of tea. She placed it on the desk and noticed the displeasure on his face. Rhine took the tea and bitterly commented, questioning if Leah realized just how wealthy the nobles truly were. Leah didn't answer his question directly. Instead, she raised a more urgent concern, asking what Rhine planned to do about Lucas's revelation at the party. If Lord Eldry truly intended to betray them, it would put Rhine in serious danger. Rhine reassured her and told her to stay calm. He admitted that he was sure of Eldry's betrayal, but explained that it wasn't the right time to confront. When Leah asked why, Rhine stretched and stood up, saying that Eldry's full network of influence in Ison was still a mystery. Acting too soon could cause unnecessary chaos. For now, it was best to let Eldry believe that Rhine was just an ignorant, eager young lord unaware of the threats around him. The following morning, Eldry met with Guildmaster Malcolm at the Mage's Guild. He handed Malcolm a piece of paper, and after reading it, the Guildmaster's face twisted fury. Malcolm slammed the paper down, calling the situation absurd. Eldry, calm and calculating, told him not to overreact and dismissed Rhine as a young, overeager noble trying too hard to prove himself to the Grand Duke. However, Malcolm wasn't appeased. His irritation grew as he reminded Eldry that even the Grand Duke spoke respectfully to the Mage's Guild. Eldry, satisfied with Malcolm's anger, inwardly celebrated. He believed Rhine had handed him the perfect opportunity to win over the guild, something he previously couldn't do. As Malcolm stormed off with the paper in hand, swearing to demand an explanation from Rhine, Eldry silently rejoiced, confident that Rhine would soon find himself isolated. Meanwhile, Rhine was in his study sketching plans for a hydraulic construction project. The work reminded him of the hardships he had faced in his previous life. Leah entered and informed him of an unexpected visitor. Guildmaster Malcolm had arrived and was demanding to see him. Surprised, Rhine immediately made his way to the parlour to meet him. The moment Rhine entered, Malcolm confronted him angrily, slamming a recruitment notice onto the table and accusing Rhine of insulting the Mage's Guild. Rhine, confused, asked Malcolm to explain further. Malcolm pointed to the notice, which stated that no mages, disabled individuals, or elderly people would be hired for Rhine's project. He demanded to know why Rhine had made such a decision. Rhine calmly looked at the paper and explained that it was related to the dam construction project, and he didn't see any insult to the guild in it. Malcolm disagreed, accusing Rhine of provoking the guild. He argued that excluding mages was a sign of disrespect to the guild and its members. Rhine was surprised, not realizing that mages were even trying to compete for manual labor jobs. Still upset, Malcolm warned that if Rhine didn't explain himself, all the mages in the guild would refuse to work with him. Rhine frowned and quietly checked Malcolm's stats using his system. It showed that Malcolm's loyalty was at 82, and he was described as inquisitive and straightforward. Reen realized that Malcolm had been misled. Smiling, Reen patiently explained his reasoning, listing 3 points. First, mages had limited mana and could only do a small amount of work each day, making them unsuitable for large-scale construction. Second, their salaries were equivalent to 10 common labourers, making them too expensive. Third, as a noble, Reen had a responsibility to prioritise the well-being of ordinary people who didn't have the guild's support. Despite this, Malcolm remained unconvinced. He argued that magic was highly respected in their world and that people without magical abilities were seen as inferior. Rhine, irritated by this attitude, acknowledged that it might be true, but he insisted that he planned to change it. He declared that starting in Iceland, he would show that mages were no different from regular humans. Feeling insulted, Malcolm gave an ultimatum. He demanded that Rhine take back his statement or face the anger of the Mages Guild. Reen's expression grew colder as he reminded Malcolm to watch his tone. Leah, standing nearby, made a threatening move, causing Malcolm to freeze in fear. Reen calmly pointed out that there was a law allowing nobles to take action against disrespect. Reen suggested testing the law with a small warning to see how the court would react. Trembling, Malcolm quickly apologized, admitted his mistake, and begged for forgiveness. Reen, noticing that Malcolm's loyalty hadn't dropped, realized that the guildmaster had acted out of misunderstanding, not malice. Deciding not to make the situation worse, Reen instructed Leah to escort Malcolm out. Malcolm thanked Reen and quickly left. As he departed, the system notified Reen that a beginner task had been completed. He had used the investigation function on 10 individuals, earning a reward and unlocking a new task, to train 5 characters with high stats. Pleased with his progress, Reen decided to review his rewards later. Outside the estate, Eldra waited for Malcolm. The moment he saw the guild master, he rushed over, pretending to be concerned. He asked how the meeting had gone. Malcolm, still embarrassed, sighed and admitted that Rhine had refused to listen and had even kicked him out. Eldry, frustrated but quick to recover, came up with another plan. He reassured Malcolm that he had a solution, one that would not only make Reen change his mind, but also force him to respect the Mages Guild. After his first plan failed, Eldra quickly thought of a new approach. He encouraged Malcolm to convince the townsfolk to refuse to work for Rhine, believing that this resistance would force Reen to ask for Malcolm's help. However, Malcolm rejected the idea, explaining that Reen had offered great working conditions, and the townsfolk were unlikely to refuse. Undeterred, Eldry suggested another strategy. He proposed that if those working for Reen were seen as lazy and idle, Reen would eventually become disillusioned with the commoners. Malcolm dismissed the idea, explaining that his dissatisfaction with Reen came solely from the refusal to hire mages, not from any issues with the common people. He was reluctant to act against Reen over something so trivial. Eldry persisted, urging Malcolm to reconsider. He argued that the common people's laziness was why they were starving and struggling. He asked why, if the land couldn't produce crops, they didn't take matters into their own hands and hunt for food. He claimed that people who were as idle as the commoners could never truly work hard for rain. Reluctantly, Malcolm agreed to give the plan a try. This version simplifies the text while maintaining all the details and flow of the original passage. Wren's recruitment notice was quickly posted at the town centre, drawing a crowd of curious townsfolk eager to learn about the new lord's plans. They gathered around to read the announcement, intrigued by his call for workers and his promise to build something new. As they read, they were stunned by the offer. An 8-hour workday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 3 daily meals, and a daily wage of 10 coins. A young man in the crowd voiced his skepticism, questioning why the new lord was offering such generous terms. Others shared his doubts, suspecting it might be a scam. Many remembered how nobles had deceived them in the past. Some even argued that working under such conditions could be dangerous and could cost them their lives. At that moment, Leland stepped forward, her voice strong and determined. She defended Wren, saying he had promised to improve everyone's lives. Her sincerity was met with laughter and ridicule, and the crowd dismissed her as naive, mocking her for trusting a noble. Even Leland's father joined in, accusing her of being bewitched by Ren. Undeterred by the jeers, Leland declared that she would register for the dam project. The recruiter, a calm young man overseeing the registration, addressed the crowd's skepticism. Turning to Leland's father, he invited him to work on the dam, but stated that Leland herself could not participate. Confused, Leland demanded to know why she was excluded, insisting that she was healthy and capable. The recruiter explained that Ren had set strict rules prohibiting anyone under 18 from working. He added that hiring underage workers without Ren's approval would lead to severe punishment. The recruiter handed Leland's father a registration form and reiterated the terms: 3 meals a day, an 8-hour workday, and a wage of 10 coins per day. He asked if there were no further issues and invited Leland's father to sign the form and begin work the following day. Slightly disappointed, Leland encouraged her father to do his best and avoid laziness. Her father smiled warmly, patting her head, and reassured her. He promised not to gamble again and vowed not to disappoint Ren. He also reminded Leland to stay home the next day to care for her mother, whose illness made it impossible for her to do any strenuous work. Before they could leave, the recruiter called out to them. Surprised, Leland's father stopped and asked if there was a problem. The recruiter, looking concerned, mentioned that he had overheard the father say his wife was gravely ill. Lillian's father quickly explained that his wife couldn't work because of her condition. The recruiter smiled kindly and reassured him, saying he wasn't asking her to work. He explained that Ren had arranged for workers' families to stay in dormitories during the project. Seeing the confusion on the father's face, the recruiter clarified that the dormitories were temporary housing for families involved in the dam's construction. Once the project was complete, families could return to their homes. Touched by this kindness, Lillian's father was overcome with emotion and dropped to his knees, expressing his heartfelt gratitude. The young recruiter quickly stepped forward to help him up, insisting there was no need for such gestures. He then offered to show them a room where they could stay, giving them the option to choose their accommodations. The townsfolk who had been watching were astonished. They realized that Ren's promises were genuine, and soon they started clamoring to sign up for work. The square became chaotic as people scrambled to register, eager to seize the opportunity. Meanwhile, in his office, Ren was reviewing system updates when a notification popped up. "Congratulations, you've received the lithium battery blueprint from the newbie gift pack." Instead of feeling excited, Ren was irritated. He muttered to himself, questioning the system's logic. Without a generator, a battery seemed practically useless. Did the system expect him to summon a lightning strike? After venting his frustration, Ren calmed down and started thinking about his next task, training 5 individuals with high stats. He had no idea where to find such people. Initially, he considered training Leah, but after reviewing her data, he saw that she had already reached her potential, leaving no room for growth. After weighing his options, Ren decided his best course of action was to look for talented individuals in Island City. As he was contemplating this, a knock came at the door. Leah's voice called out, informing him that Lillian had come to see him. Ren granted Leland entry, and she stepped into the room, her face tense with worry. She quickly explained that something was wrong at the construction site. The workers were too sluggish to work. Ren was surprised by the report and asked her to explain further. Leland told him what she had observed during her visit to the site. She had gone to check on her father and noticed that none of the workers seemed able to complete their tasks. At first, she thought they were simply being lazy, but her father explained that everyone felt unusually tired when they woke up. It wasn't just him. Every worker was in the same condition. Leland had tried to encourage them, reminding them of the generous benefits Ren had provided, but her words fell on deaf ears. The workers claimed their fatigue wasn't deliberate. They truly lacked the strength to work. Some speculated that their bodies weren't used to labor after such a long period of inactivity, while others suggested taking a day off to recover. However, Leland dismissed these excuses, firmly believing they were just being lazy. Realizing that her efforts to motivate them were in vain, she decided to bring the matter directly to Ren. After hearing her account, Ren wasted no time and headed to the construction site. Upon arrival, he observed the workers firsthand, and their lethargy was undeniable. To understand the situation better, Ren used his system abilities to analyze their stats. Everything appeared normal on the surface, but he noticed one critical anomaly. All the workers were under a curse. Ren turned to Lalan and calmly explained the situation. They're not sick, they're cursed. After realizing the workers were cursed, Ren surveyed the construction site, thinking about his next move. He decided to test his newly acquired skill, geological survey. Initially, he had planned to use this skill during the dam's construction, but the current situation made it a pressing need. Ren could analyze various geological features, including mineral compositions, hydrology, and topography, within a defined range. Under Ren's command, the system activated and conducted a survey within a 10-kilometer radius. Moments later, the results appeared in his mind. While the survey confirmed the absence of valuable resources like oil or metals, something unusual caught Ren's attention. Acting on his instincts, he asked Leland's father to help dig at the marked spot. The man agreed without hesitation, eager to work hard for Ren. After digging about a meter into the ground, they unearthed a strange black stone. Ren crouched to examine it closely, questioning its nature. Leah, who was standing nearby, was astonished by Ren's ability to sense faint magical energy emanating from the stone, something even she, with her expertise, had overlooked. Ren instructed the group to carefully remove the crystal and store it securely in a box. Turning to Leah, he asked what the usual procedure was for dealing with cursed individuals. Caught off guard by the question, Leah explained that curses were typically resolved by priests at a church or high-ranking mages from the Mage Association. Hearing this, Ren frowned, suspecting a connection to the Mage Association. He decided to take Lylan and her father to the local church for assistance. Lylan, worried, asked if her father was truly cursed. Ren reassured her, promising to make the culprit pay for their actions. The group quickly made their way to the church, where they were greeted by a stunning priestess. She welcomed Ren warmly, her demeanor calm and composed. Ever cautious, Ren used his system to assess her loyalty before entrusting her with the task. The system instantly revealed her stats, a loyalty level of 95%, race identified as elf, and an actual age of about 257 years, though she appeared no older than 24. Ren was surprised to learn she wasn't human, but felt reassured by her high loyalty. Introducing herself, the priestess said her name was Aerie, and referred to herself as the Holy Maiden of the church. She politely inquired about the purpose of their visit, pointing to Leland's father. Ren explained that the man seemed to be cursed, and asked if Aerie could help. Ari nodded confidently and began examining the man. She briefly closed her eyes, and when she reopened them, they glowed with a golden light as she scanned him closely. After a moment, she confirmed Ren's suspicion and started the treatment. Summoning a glowing sphere of light, she directed it into the man's body, instantly expelling the dark energy. The man felt revitalized and expressed his gratitude to Ren, vowing to return to work immediately. Ren, smiling, advised him to rest and make sure everything was fully resolved before resuming work. He then retrieved the box containing the black crystal and asked Ari for her opinion on it. Ari carefully examined the crystal, identifying it as a magic crystal infused with a significant amount of magical energy. She explained that such energy was commonly used for casting curses, but clarified that this particular curse was more of a prank designed to cause fatigue, not serious harm. Ren felt uneasy after hearing this and asked if such crystals were difficult to produce. Ari replied that for a high-level mage, creating one crystal a day was relatively easy, and they could easily scatter them around the construction site. Ren's expression darkened as he realized the interference was deliberate. Ari acknowledged Ren's project, praising its impact on reducing the number of people seeking aid from the church. Now certain of the culprit's identity, Ren resolved to take action. He asked Ari if it was possible to lift the curse over the entire construction site. Ari regretfully informed him that it wasn't possible, explaining that removing individual crystals daily would only slow the project's progress. Ren sighed, recognizing the need to address the root of the problem. Ari then mentioned someone who might be able to help, but warned that the individual was eccentric. She provided an address. and Ren decided to investigate. Ren and Leah arrived at a large mansion, which Ari had identified as the home of Selena, the former president of the Mage Association. As they approached the door, Ren knocked firmly, his determination unwavering. Suddenly, Leah sensed danger and quickly pulled Ren aside. Moments later, an explosion erupted from the upper floor of the mansion, sending smoke and debris into the air. Startled, Ren demanded to know what was happening. From the smoke, a stunning woman emerged, her voice filled with frustration. She cursed her failed experiment and vowed to succeed, even if it meant blowing up the entire island. After entering the house, Rain calmly explained the issue and requested Selena's assistance. However, she outright refused, telling him she was busy researching a new magical device and had no time to deal with his problems. Intrigued, Rain asked her to elaborate, wondering if she meant something like a magic wand. Selena sneered, mocking his limited understanding. Leah, her tone icy, immediately intervened, warning Selena to watch her tone when addressing young Master Rain. Annoyed by Leah's reprimand, Selena turned her gaze toward her, commenting on Leah's impressive magical power with a smile. She then suggested that Leah stay as her assistant, promising to assist Rain once her research succeeded. Sparks of lightning crackled around Selena as she displayed her power. Unfazed, Leah prepared to retaliate, her voice sharp as she offered to teach Selena some manners. Sensing the rising tension, Rain quickly stepped between them, urging Leah to stand down. He reminded her that they were here for help, not to start a fight. Turning to Selena's cluttered workspace, Ryan asked if she had created the items scattered across the table. He wanted to know if they were magical devices. Selena's eyes gleamed with pride as she confirmed his observation. She explained, however, that everything on the table was a failed product. She was trying to create a magical device capable of sealing the lightning element magic within her body. Ryan was astonished. He marveled at the concept, equating it to storing electrical energy. Selena confirmed his interpretation and added that the earlier explosion was a result of her devices failing to withstand her power. Dismissing Rain again, she said she needed to rest and continue her research. Ryan paused, deep in thought, before making an offer. He told Selena that if he helped her create the device she needed, she would have to assist him with his issues regarding the Mage Guild. Skeptical and irritated, Selena brushed him off, claiming her research was too complex for someone like him to solve. Remaining calm, Reen assured her he was serious. He promised to help her create the magical device, asking for her support in return. Intrigued but doubtful, Selena agreed, setting a condition. If Ryan succeeded, she would not only deal with Malcolm, but also ensure the Mage Guild obeyed his every command. However, if he failed, she wouldn't hesitate to punish him. Without wasting time, Reen asked Selena to prepare the required materials. Using the blueprint provided by the system, he guided her in assembling a lithium battery pack made up of 8 large batteries linked together. Despite their efforts, Reen felt nervous since they lacked a reliable power source to test the device. With no hydraulic generator available, they had no choice but to rely on Selena's magic as a substitute. Following Rain's instructions, Selena assembled the components but remained skeptical. She reminded him that most materials couldn't handle her magical power and warned that the device might explode. Unfazed, Rain handed her the wires and reassured her, explaining that the battery pack had a capacity of approximately 185 watt-hours and urging her to channel her energy into it. Reluctantly, Selena began discharging her magic. To her astonishment, the device absorbed her energy without any issues. Curious, she increased the output, yet the battery remained stable. Shocked, Selena couldn't understand why the device hadn't exploded. Rain smirked, taunting her and suggesting that her magical power wasn't as impressive as she thought. Infuriated, Selena unleashed her full strength. Even at maximum output, the battery pack held steady, showing no signs of damage. Selena was left speechless, amazed at how much power the device could contain and how effortlessly Rain had built it. Rain, satisfied, stepped forward to check the battery's charge level, which was at 87%. Internally, he marveled at Selena's strength. She had charged almost the entire pack, enough to power an electric car for over 3,000 kilometers. Rain's confidence grew as he turned to Selena and declared his plans to revolutionize the Mage Guild. He referred to them as potential power banks and explained his vision for their magical abilities. Intrigued, Selena asked if Rhine himself could use lightning magic. Rhine didn't deny it. Instead, he claimed he could make everyone in Island City capable of wielding magic. Selena, skeptical, pointed out that magic couldn't simply be learned by anyone. However, Rhine remained calm. He hinted that he possessed a magical device even more powerful than the battery pack, and promised to show her a world where magic was accessible to all if she agreed to help him. Selena, both baffled and curious, couldn't imagine such a possibility but decided to continue working with him. The next day at the Mage Guild, Malcolm was leisurely reading a book, confident that Rain would soon come begging for his help. His calm was interrupted when Selena suddenly arrived. Seeing her, Malcolm froze in shock. The former president of the Mage Guild was the last person he expected to see. Stammering, he greeted her cautiously, wondering why she had come. Selena's voice rose in anger as she confronted Malcolm, accusing him of daring to challenge the authority of the Grand Duke's household. Her words were sharp as she questioned whether he was planning a rebellion. Malcolm, visibly shaken, nervously denied any such intentions, assuring Selena that he would never harbour such dangerous thoughts. Unconvinced, Selena grabbed Malcolm by the collar, her patience wearing thin. She demanded the truth, insisting he confess what he had done at Rhine's construction site. Trembling, Malcolm quickly relented. He admitted to summoning all the mages from the guild and inciting their anger by claiming that young Master Reen had disrespected them. He confessed to instructing the mages to craft curse-infused crystals and use teleportation magic to plant them underground at the construction site. This scheme was meant to cause the workers to feel fatigued. Hoping that Rhine would blame the workers for laziness, Malcolm's goal was to force him into an apology and push for closer cooperation with the Mage Guild. Selena listened with disbelief and frustration. Shaking her head, she called Malcolm a fool and pointed out that he had been manipulated. When a still confused Malcolm asked who had used him, Selena dismissed the question and ordered him to recall every mage involved in the sabotage immediately. Malcolm nodded hastily and rushed off to follow her command. Once he was gone, Selena used a talisman to contact Rain, informing him that she had resolved the issue with the Mage Guild. Rain expressed his gratitude, thanking her for her help. Curious, Selena asked if he needed her assistance dealing with Eldry, offering to make him disappear without a trace. Rain quickly declined, waving his hand reflexively even though she couldn't see him. He explained that Eldry wasn't a significant concern right now, and he still needed him to lure out a bigger threat. Selena accepted Rain's decision and agreed not to interfere. Her tone shifted to excitement as she brought up the new inventions Rain had mentioned earlier. She pressed him for details, asking when they would be ready, and insisting that he call her when he began working on them. Ryan reassured her that he would keep her informed, but emphasized the importance of having the guild's mages finish charging the battery clusters first. The next day, at the City Lord's residence, Eldry met with a mysterious man cloaked in shadows. Eldry, visibly worried, reported that Ryan had already taken control of the Mage Guild. He nervously asked for guidance. The mysterious man, however, remained calm and dismissive, stating that the Mage Guild posed no real threat aside from Selena. He redirected Eldry's attention to Rain's dam project, warning that if it succeeded, it could revitalize the people of Ison, something they couldn't allow. Eldry assured the man that he had already set traps for Rain and revealed an additional plan. He intended to pressure the nobles in charge of food supplies to raise prices, undermining Rain's efforts. The mysterious man expressed doubt about the nobles and loyalty, but Eldry confidently explained that while the nobles might betray him, they would never betray their own financial interests. Flicking a gold coin into the air with a smirk, Eldry declared that Rhine's funds wouldn't last until the dam's completion. As the coin landed on the table, the mysterious man's figure dissolved into thin air. Meanwhile, in the bustling market, Lillian was buying supplies for the construction site when a shopkeeper rudely chased her away. His tone was condescending as he told her to leave if she couldn't afford the goods. Lillian, frustrated, pointed out the absurd price hike. Just the day before, 2 bags of grain had cost 1 gold coin, but now one bag alone was priced at 2 gold coins. The shopkeeper, unfazed, arrogantly stated that he could set any prices he wanted. He mocked her inability to pay and raised his hand as if to strike her. The commotion attracted the attention of onlookers, many of whom were outraged by the shopkeeper's actions. Determined to complete her task for Rain, Lillian accused the merchants of profiteering and warned them of Rain's potential wrath. The shopkeeper sneered, dismissing her threat. He claimed his business was honest and that Reen had no right to interfere. His arrogance only deepened the frustration of those watching. At the church, Ari was equally infuriated by the rampant price gouging. She noted that food prices had tripled in just 3 days, leaving her with insufficient grain to sustain the people through the winter. She handed a pouch of coins to her assistant, Era, instructing her to buy whatever supplies she could, promising to figure out the rest later. Era hesitated, surprised by the unusually large sum of money, and pointed out that bribing guards typically required much less. Eri sighed, urging Era to follow her orders without question. Before Era could act, Leah appeared suddenly, snatching the pouch with lightning speed and handing it to Rain with a calm but determined expression. Rain suggested a collaboration, proposing that they work together on a larger plan to address the root of the crisis and prevent further exploitation by the merchants. Ari looked at Rain with suspicion, questioning what kind of cooperation he had in mind. Rain smiled at her guarded demeanor, suggesting she relax and not be so tense about discussing cooperation. He then casually mentioned that he knew she was an elf. Though deeply concerned that Rain had discovered her true identity, Ari maintained her composure and denied it, insisting that no elf could possibly be living in a human city. Rain, unfazed, tossed a pouch of coins back to Ari and reassured her that he meant no harm to her or her kind. Ari, avoiding the topic, redirected the conversation, asking again what kind of cooperation he was proposing. Reen gestured to the sacks of food on a nearby cart and explained that he wanted to work together to solve the food supply issue in the city. While Ari respected Rain's determination, she doubted his ability to solve such a deeply ingrained problem. She openly expressed her skepticism, prompting Rain to ask why she felt that way. Ari elaborated, explaining that the food supplies in Islan were controlled by 4 major families that had held power in the city for over a century. These families tightly regulated prices, and their influence was unshakable. She reminded Rain that, although he had used strong-arm tactics at the recent banquet to intimidate some of them, they were clever individuals who would surely find a way to recover their losses. Rain interrupted her, curious about her detailed knowledge of the city's inner workings. Ari admitted that she had lived in Islan for over 120 years and understood its complexities well. She further suggested that if Rain had eliminated the Elm family at the banquet, there might have been a chance for reconciliation, but now it was too late. Ari added that due to war and natural disasters, food was already scarce, and if prices remained high, her tribe would struggle to survive the winter. Rain cut her off again, his gaze resolute. He promised Ari that within 2 weeks, food prices in Elan would drop to levels even lower than before the recent price hikes. At the mansion of Augustus Ken, head of the Klein family, a celebratory gathering was underway. Augustus expressed his gratitude to Eldri for his support, acknowledging that their alliance had led to significant profits. Others in the room echoed their thanks, raising their glasses to toast Augustus and their shared success. The mood was jubilant, and the group revelled in their recent gains, confident in their strategy. Their celebration was interrupted by a servant, who announced that Ryan had invited them to a banquet at his mansion. One of the men, startled by the news, nervously speculated whether Ryan was planning to punish them. Turning to Augustus, he asked for guidance on how they should proceed. Augustus, calm and calculating, reassured them that they had nothing to fear. He explained that their trade in food supplies was entirely legal and protected by the system they had established. Augustus emphasized that as long as they didn't openly oppose Rhine, they wouldn't be in danger. He pointed out that the combined strength of their 4 families was formidable, and that even the king had no authority to interfere with food pricing. With this reasoning, the group relaxed, agreeing that their position was secure. Augustus suggested that if Rain tried to pressure them, they could make a small gesture by lowering prices slightly, maybe by 5 copper coins. However, he sternly warned them that any betrayal would result in severe consequences. With their confidence restored, Augustus encouraged the group to prepare for the banquet. Despite their initial surprise at his insistence on changing into old, tattered clothes, they followed his lead. At Rhine's mansion, a servant informed him that Augustus and the invited guests had arrived. Rhine instructed the servant to invite them in and ensure the kitchen prepared the food. When Augustus and the others entered, Rhine immediately noticed their deliberate attempts to appear impoverished, their once lavish clothing replaced with ragged attire. Amused, he thought to himself how poorly they were playing their roles. Maintaining his composure, Rhine greeted them with mock surprise and commented on how unexpected it was to see the nobleman who controlled Island's food supply looking so destitute. Augustus quickly responded, praising Rhine's projects and claiming that they too wanted to contribute to the greater good. Another man chimed in, explaining that under Augustus's leadership they had not only donated money to Rhine's initiatives, but had also sold food from their warehouses at the lowest possible prices, even taking a loss to help the citizens. Leah, observing their shameless behavior, felt nothing but disdain. Their blatant lies and attempts to deceive Rhine didn't surprise her. Rain, however, played along, thanking them for their understanding and claiming to be deeply moved by their support. He explained that he had invited them to discuss the grain trade plan. Before Rain could continue, Augustus interrupted, asserting that they understood Rain's financial difficulties. He reiterated that at the current price of 2 gold coins per sack of food, they were already selling at a loss. The others nodded in agreement, backing Augustus's claim. Rhine smiled and clarified his intent. He proposed raising the price of food in Island to 4 gold coins per sack, starting the next day. His statement left the nobles baffled. Augustus, confused, asked if Rhine truly intended to raise the prices. Rhine calmly confirmed with a commanding tone, explaining that not only would the price rise to 4 gold coins, but he would also take a 30% commission on all sales. When Rhine announced this, Augustus was visibly puzzled and questioned whether he had heard correctly. Rhine didn't repeat himself, but calmly reminded Augustus of the 30% commission he would be taking. Upon hearing this, Augustus and the other nobles exchanged delighted glances. Initially, they had underestimated Rhine, thinking he was just an inexperienced young lord. But now they saw him as a shrewd businessman, like themselves. They believed Rhine understood their interests and figured that with his backing, their business ventures would thrive. They regretted not recognizing his cleverness sooner and realized they could have aligned with him much earlier. Though excited, Augustus knew they couldn't act rashly without official documentation. Raising prices too high could cause chaos, potentially damaging their interests. With this in mind, Augustus voiced his concerns, politely thanking Rhine for his understanding and asking when an official announcement would be issued. Rhine, prepared for this, instructed Leah to hand him a document. With a cheerful tone, he informed them that he had already written and stamped the official notice with his family seal, and it would be posted after their meal. As the conversation continued, Rhine reminded the nobles that from now on, they would follow his instructions and learn from the consequences the Elven family had suffered. Augustus eagerly assured him they wouldn't disappoint. After the banquet, the nobles gathered once again at Augustus's residence. Rhine's unexpected approach had left them bewildered. They debated whether to report this new development to Eldri, noting how strange it was for Rhine to raise prices instead of lowering them. Some suspected he was motivated purely by greed, but Augustus dismissed their doubts, calling it a golden opportunity. He reminded them that if too many people learned of their scheme, their profits would shrink. He assured them that Rhine was just a child using benefits to draw them in, and urged them to keep the price hike a secret. A vast fortune was within their grasp, and only a fool would let such an opportunity slip away. Despite Augustus's confidence, one cautious noble expressed unease. He admitted that in all his years he had never encountered such a lucrative opportunity, which made him wary. Nonetheless, he pledged to follow Augustus's lead, bowing deeply in loyalty. The others quickly followed suit, swearing their allegiance to Augustus. Satisfied, Augustus laughed heartily and declared that from now on they would act as one. He proposed they immediately buy up all the grain from smaller merchants before the official announcement was posted, ensuring they controlled the market and maximized their profits. Meanwhile, at Rhine's estate, unexpected guests arrived. Scientist Era stormed in, visibly furious. She accused Rain of siding with the corrupt merchants, demanding to know why he had promised to lower grain prices, yet allowed them to skyrocket instead. Her anger flared as she declared that she wouldn't stand by while the elf race was being exploited. Lylan quickly stepped in, trying to calm her down. She assured Era that Rain intended to reduce food prices and urged her to trust him. Still agitated, Era snapped back, insisting that Rain had already become an accomplice to the greedy merchants. Despite this, Lylan maintained her faith in Rain's decisions, pleading with Era to believe in his plan. After a moment of tense silence, Era turned to Rain, her expression filled with concern. Hesitantly, she asked if he truly intended to raise food prices. Rain smiled but chose not to reveal his full strategy, simply reassuring her that food prices would drop soon. In the worst case, he promised they would fall to their lowest point within 2 weeks. Era, unconvinced, felt Rhine was being naive. She believed he didn't understand the harsh realities of the world. Having lived for over 200 years, she had never seen food prices decrease after a major spike. Sensing her doubt, Rhine grew serious. He posed a rhetorical question. If he put a knife to the nobles' throats, how much did she think they would lower the price by? 1 coin? 10 coins? Era had no answer but remained skeptical. She argued that raising the price to 4 gold coins per sack was excessive, noting that at 2 gold coins the common people had already struggled to afford food. With the price doubled, starvation seemed inevitable. Rhine maintained his calm demeanor, explaining that whether the price was 2 or 4 gold coins, the people would starve either way. The only difference was the timing. He then declared that simply lowering the price by a few coins would be meaningless. His goal wasn't just to reduce prices, it was to completely ruin the merchants and strip them of their fortunes. 7 days passed, during which Rhine focused on teaching Selena about the creation and function of lithium batteries. Selena, fascinated by the device's complexity, was fully engaged in the lessons. Their session was interrupted when Leah suddenly appeared, announcing that Saintess Era had come to visit again. Over the past few days, Era had visited frequently, making Rhine wonder if she had too much free time. Selena, equally curious, asked Rhine why he had deliberately raised food prices. By now, grain prices in the city had soared to nearly 7 gold coins per sack. Surprised by how quickly the prices had risen, Rhine didn't have time to answer as Era burst into the room. She immediately scolded him, exclaiming that not only the common people, but even some nobles could no longer afford food. She demanded to know if he realized how bad the situation had become. Remaining calm, Rhine asked Leah how many days had passed since the price increase. Leah quickly confirmed that it had been 7 days. Hearing this, Rhine smiled, declaring that it was time to deal with the merchants. Era, still frustrated, demanded that Rhine stop speaking in vague terms and explain himself. She warned him that if he didn't, the elf tribe would soon sever ties with him. Rhine finally responded, explaining that he hadn't shared the full details of his plan earlier because he feared it might disrupt things and raise suspicions among the nobles. Now that everything was in place, he was ready to explain. He revealed that the announcement setting a minimum food price of 4 gold coins per sack had been in effect for 7 days. Then, he asked Era what she thought the city lacked the most right now. After a moment of thought, she replied that there didn't seem to be a shortage of anything. Rhine smiled knowingly at her answer and calmly responded, "What the city lacks are merchants who sell grain." Rhine smiled as if he was contemplating something. Finally he spoke, "Now you understand. The one thing Island City does not lack right now is food, and merchants selling food. Greed is the easiest trait to manipulate in human nature, and no one can resist it." The price of food in Island City had soared to 4 gold coins per sack, and the news quickly spread to merchants in neighboring towns. Their greed was immediately stirred. They would rush into Island. bringing their supplies and selling them at outrageous prices to those 4 naive fools. This would only fuel the greed of other merchants even more. Soon, Island City would be the city with the most food in the entire empire. Every merchant, blinded by the prospect of huge profits, had one thought in mind: get rich. By the end of the day, the 4 major noble houses in Island City would no longer exist. Ryan pulled out a piece of paper from his bag, handed it to Era, and instructed her to post the notice throughout the major streets and alleys of Ireland. He told her to announce that Lady Era, the holy maiden of the church, disapproving of his methods, had decided to sell the church's food reserves at only 1 gold coin per sack. He told her to make sure everyone knew about it. Era, skeptical, asked, "Wait, Master Rain, why would you give me this good reputation?" Reen smiled and replied, "Because I don't have any food to sell." Hearing this, Era grew confused. "But I don't have enough food either. Surely you don't mean for me to sell the food my people need to survive the winter?" "Precisely," Ryan replied calmly. Era became visibly anxious and refused. "Absolutely not. This food is what the elves need to get through the winter." Lady Selena covered her mouth and chuckled. "Era, you're so naive. If I were you, I'd follow the young master's advice. Sell the food immediately, or you'll incur heavy losses." Still puzzled, Era insisted, "We elves don't care about money. We only need food." Ryan spoke slowly. "Holy Maiden Era, trust me and follow my lead. Your food supplies will only increase. Rest assured." He then turned to Selena. "We'll need your help and the Mags Guild to seal the city." Selena nodded. "Don't worry, I won't let a single rat escape Island." Reen's expression turned cold with anger. Now it's time to make those greedy merchants pay the price. After Era and Selena left, Leah stood silently, her face filled with concern. Reen noticed and asked, "Leah, is something troubling you?" Leah replied, "My lord, I'm worried things might not go as smoothly as you expect. What if those merchants hold out for a few days and the Holy Maiden's food runs out?" Reen chuckled lightly. "Leah, there are 2 types of strategies: covert schemes and overt plans. Covert schemes can be exposed, but overt plans are unavoidable. Those merchants from other regions are already blinded by their ambitions. They're risking their entire fortunes and lives in this gamble, hoping for overnight riches. If they hear about falling food prices, they'll rush to sell their stock and withdraw. Delay means death." Meanwhile, at the Augustus estate, a group of nobles were meeting in panic. One man spoke up. "Lord Augustus, this is bad news. The church just announced they're selling their food reserves for only 1 gold coin per sack to help the people. What should we do?" Another chimed in, equally alarmed. "This is a disaster. We underestimated the church's resources. What now? We bought all our food reserves at 2 gold coins per sack." Augustus, maintaining his composure, spoke slowly. "Calm yourselves. How much food could a single church possibly have? Enough to feed the people of Ireland for a few days. Send a few of our men to infiltrate the church and buy up as much food as possible." The next day, a large crowd gathered in front of the church, all eager to purchase food. Era stood at the entrance, raising her hand to calm the crowd. "Please don't push. There's enough food for everyone. The Holy Pope is aware of the difficulties the people are facing and has specially sent 100,000 sacks of grain. This is just the first shipment. Starting tomorrow, other caravans will continue to deliver food to Ireland." Some citizens suspected her of lying, inciting others to scramble for the food. As the crowd grew restless, a group of soldiers arrived, and their presence immediately silenced the mob. One soldier stepped forward and addressed Era. "Saintus, this is the food provided by the Holy Pope. This is only the first shipment. Starting tomorrow, other teams will deliver more food to Ireland." Era nodded awkwardly. "All right, thank you." Internally, she thought, "Lord Wren, please stop adding more to this situation. I'm barely holding it together. What am I supposed to say if the Holy Pope learns about this?" Seeing the vast amount of food, the citizens cheered. "We have food now, we're saved." This scene made the merchants uneasy. "It's over," one merchant muttered. "This whole venture is ruined, sabotaged by the church. My cost per sack is 60 silver coins, and with transportation and other expenses, it's 95 silver coins each. I can still make 10 silver coins per sack, but I have to sell them immediately. Any delay will lead to massive losses." With that thought, he shouted, selling grain here. Fresh grain, 95 silver coins per sack. Hearing this, people rushed to him. "I'll take 10 sacks." "Me too." Other merchants, seeing this, couldn't sit idly by. They jumped into the price war, and from that moment the price of grain in Ireland plummeted uncontrollably. Leah was overjoyed. "Lord Wren is truly remarkable. I can't believe everything is unfolding exactly as you predicted. The price of grain will certainly drop to 50 silver coins per sack. By then, your construction project will be completed on schedule." Wren smiled faintly. 50 silver coins? You're underestimating those merchants. Just wait until Augustus and his allies start dumping their stock. Grain will become the cheapest commodity in all of Ireland. Leah was surprised. "Young master, are you saying Augustus and his allies will also start unloading their supplies like the other merchants?" Initially, they purchased at 2 gold coins per sack, or even higher. Besides, at the banquet, they appeared so united. There's no way they'd betray each other. Wren laughed. "United? You overestimate them. When faced with personal gain, no one can remain rational. The price of grain in Ireland is no longer an issue. It's time for me to discuss the remaining part of the transaction with the Satis. Let's go." At Augustus's mansion, a butler hurriedly ran in to report. "Lord Augustus, the merchants from outside the city have gone mad. They're continuously lowering their prices. Right now, grain is selling for 75 silver coins per sack." A nobleman stood up suddenly, shouting angrily, "Impossible! What nonsense are you spouting? Doesn't all the grain in Ireland belong to us? How could there be grain from outside that drops the price?" The butler nervously responded, "Lord Roland, it's the truth. I wouldn't dare lie." Augustus furrowed his brows, deep in thought, before suddenly opening his eyes, clearly agitated. "I understand now. I see it all so clearly. Young Master Wren, you're truly ruthless. Do you intend to see my entire family destroyed?" Hearing this, the other nobles looked at him in confusion. "Lord Augustus, what do you mean?" Augustus immediately began analysing the situation. First, young Master Wren spread rumours of skyrocketing grain prices in Ireland. This naturally triggered greed among the merchants in neighbouring cities, forcing them to flood Ireland with grain supplies. Once the merchants arrived, he used the church's name to crash the market, sending everyone into a panic. To avoid catastrophic losses, the merchants from outside were forced to cut their losses and sell their grain at a steep discount. Roland's face turned pale and cold sweat ran down his back. "Young Master Wren used such underhanded tactics?" Augustus continued. "I still have one plan that could reverse our fortunes." Roland, now desperate, asked eagerly, "Lord Augustus, please share it with us." Augustus replied, "This grain will only sustain the people of Ireland for a few more months. If we stockpile supplies and wait until shortages hit again, we'll surely be able to sell at high prices. If we all stand together and refuse to sell, we can weather this storm. But if any one of us chooses to sell, we'll all be doomed." Roland glanced at Augustus and nodded seriously. "Lord Augustus is right. I must return home immediately to order a full lockdown on my grain stores." With that, Roland quickly left, secretly thinking to himself, "Wait, what? Sell everything immediately. I mustn't let them sell faster than me." The other nobles watched Roland leave, each thinking the same thing. "Roland, you're planning to act first, aren't you? Then it's every man for himself." With that thought, 2 other nobles excused themselves and hurriedly departed. After they left, Augustus's butler cautiously said, "Master, I'll go instruct the staff to guard the grain and ensure nothing is sold." Augustus furiously kicked the butler. "You fool! If you don't sell, and those 3 sell everything first, what will we do then?" Augustus immediately ordered his subordinates to liquidate all of their stockpiled grain without delay. Meanwhile, Wren arrived at the church to meet Saintus Era. "Saintus, how about it? Is this grain enough for your people to survive the winter?" Era was still puzzled, unable to understand why the grain supplies seemed to increase the more they sold. Wren smiled and explained, "It's because you're selling at the highest price and buying at the lowest. With each sale and purchase, you're making tens of thousands of gold coins." At that moment, Lillian hurried in, saying, "Lord Wren, the price of grain has dropped again. Now 1 gold coin can buy 3 bags." Wren turned to Era and said, "See, I told you to wait a little longer and the price would drop even further. If you buy now, you'll be able to get over 10 more bags of grain. Now, can we discuss our transaction? Er asked hesitantly. What exactly do you want to trade with our elven tribe? Ren extended his hand and replied, everything. Er was completely baffled, and Ren elaborated, I want to collaborate on everything, food, clothing, housing, transportation, whatever your elven tribe needs. We can negotiate anything, from small things like grain to larger matters like land. Er looked flustered. Something this significant isn't for me to decide. You'll have to speak with our queen. No problem, Ren replied. Arrange a meeting with your queen for me anytime. He handed her a letter. Please deliver this to your queen. Ren thought to himself, after resolving this grain crisis and using it as a warning to the nobles in Ireland, they shouldn't cause any significant trouble for a while. The Mage Guild is already under my control, and taking over the church is just a matter of time. The city lord Elry still has 2 trump cards, the military and taxes. If I can gain control of the military, no matter what schemes Elry has, he won't escape my grasp. I need to find a way to infiltrate the military. Leah suddenly approached, interrupting Ren's thoughts. Young master, you should rest a little more. Let me help you relax. Ren replied, I'm not that tired. But before they could continue, an incident occurred. A man stormed into the church, furious. Those damned soldiers abusing the authority of the Grand Duke. Why doesn't the divine strike them down with lightning? Eric quickly stepped forward to calm him. What happened, sir? We uphold compassion as our guiding principle. The man explained angrily. I came to Ireland to do business. Profit and loss are part of it, but on my way back, those scoundrel soldiers robbed me of my money. How am I supposed to do business like this? Ren stepped in, interrupting. What exactly happened? The man shouted, Who are you? Ren smiled and replied, I'm someone who wants to do business with you. Ren, along with Leah and Lillian, disguised themselves as merchants and joined the others leaving the city. At the city gate, a guard stopped them. Halt! Where are you coming from, and what's in the carts behind you? The guard demanded. Lillian replied, Sir, I'm a resident of Ireland. The carts carry goods bought in the city, destined for trade with the Elven tribe. The guard sneered. You say you're trading, and we're supposed to just believe you? Search the carts. The soldiers pulled back the coverings and smashed several barrels with their spears. Lillian quickly protested. Sir, please don't do that. Everything's broken now. How am I supposed to transport? One of the soldiers reported, Boss, there's nothing. The commanding officer sneered. Then by regulation, you need to pay a toll. Furious, Lillian exclaimed, You've already destroyed my goods, and now you want to charge a toll? The guard arrogantly replied, Either pay the toll or get lost. Lillian wanted to argue, but Ren, from inside the cart, instructed her to pay. Reluctantly, Lillian took out a silver coin and handed it to the guard. The guard smirked. The toll is increased under Lord Ren's decree. The current toll is 5 silver coins. Leah angrily shouted, 5 silver coins? The total value of my goods isn't even worth 3 silver coins, and you're demanding 5 for a toll. The guard bellowed, Are you paying or not? If not, move along and stop blocking the road. Frustrated, Lillian handed over the 5 silver coins, thinking to herself, daring to impersonate Lord Ren to extort money. Just wait until his plans are complete. Let's see how he deals with all of you. Once the money was received, the soldiers waved them through. Outside the city of Ireland, Ren looked at the man with a furious expression. The man muttered, That young Lord Ren is absolutely despicable, raising the tolls like that. A merchant travelling with them immediately objected, Sir, please show some respect. Lord Ren is a benefactor of Ireland. We won't tolerate slander against him. Ren chuckled lightly. You merchants are peculiar. The guard clearly said Ren ordered the toll, yet you're blaming the soldiers instead of him. The merchant, full of admiration, replied, You must be new here. Lord Ren lowered the price of grain for the people of Ireland. Even though I took a financial hit, it was the first time I've seen a lord genuinely care about his people. If I ever meet him, I'd gladly lay down my life for him. Ren remained calm and said, But I heard the youngest son of the Grand Lord killed someone during a banquet and mobilized the townsfolk to dig for some. The merchant replied, You must be talking about the Elven family. They deserved what they got. Ren asked, Oh, what else do you know about? The merchant looked around cautiously and lowered his voice. Keep your voice down. Everyone who does business in Ireland knows about the Elven family. Many believe the Elven family amassed their wealth through gambling houses, but that's not the case. The merchant leaned in and whispered, Their real business is human trafficking. Hearing this, Ren's fists clenched in anger. What did you just say? Holding back his fury, Ren silently cursed. Damn it! I'm already short on manpower, and now they're messing with my labor force. I need to secure control of the border troops first. If chaos breaks out internally, it'll be hard to stop outside forces from taking advantage of it. Suddenly, Lillian's voice rang out from outside the cart. "Why are you charging another toll? Isn't the toll already paid when leaving Island?" The border guard replied, "The toll for Island is different from the toll for the border post." Furious, Lillian shouted, "You're lying! The toll used to be paid only once." The guard barked, "Either pay the toll or turn back." Clenching her fists, Lillian asked, "How much is the toll?" The guard grinned smugly. "1 gold coin." "1 gold coin? You're practically robbing us," Lillian yelled angrily. Ren intervened calmly. "Lillian, just pay what they ask." Reluctantly, Lillian handed over the gold coin, but then the guard shouted, "There are more people inside. Everyone get out. Everyone entering or leaving must be inspected." Ren and Lillian stepped down from the cart. Ren shot a sharp look at the guard. "If you want to inspect, then go ahead." The guard froze, his face drained of colour as sweat began to trickle down. That's it for the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment your favourite part, and subscribe to the channel for the next episode. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you're the first to catch the next part. See you soon.